Hello, and this is my impression of a Hollywood acceptance speech. I'm so surprised! I had no idea! I'm not even prepared! Okay. I'd like to thank the Progressive discounts that got me here. Safe Driver Multi-Car, Paid in Full Multi-Policy. This is just such a big moment. And did I mention that I'm surprised?
With all kinds of discounts, Progressive helps you save.
Oh, and I want to thank my agent and all my discounts agents because we all have the same agent. Don't start the music!
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Discounts not available in all states or situations.
Blog Talk Radio.
Om Shabbat Shalom, Holy Way of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shalom, I sense your presence. Om Shabbat Shalom, Holy Way of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shalom, I sense your presence. I sense your presence. And I am the light within your soul, in the essence of truth and right, love makes the circle whole. And here we stand in line, waiting for some sacred sign, but to find the balance is the purpose of this time, to restore the balance of the universal mind. And in the presence of my Lord of light and love, everything I see aspiring to be free. And when I call to thee, and come on bended knee, surrender to the all-pervading light and love, reflections of the one surrounding me with love. And I sense your presence. I sense your presence. I sense your presence. I sense your presence. Within and without, above and below, yeah. East, west, north, and south, I sense your presence. Without and within, below and above, yeah. East, west, north, and south, I sense your presence. I sense your presence. In the presence of my Lord of light and love, everything I find in tune with the divine. And here we stand in line, waiting for some sacred sign, but to find the balance is the purpose of this time, to restore the balance of the universal mind. And I am the light within your soul, in the essence of truth and right, love makes the circle whole. And when I call to thee, and come on bended knee, surrender to the all-pervading light and love, reflections of the one surrounding me with love. For to find the balance is the purpose of this time, to restore the balance of the universal mind. And I sense your presence. I sense your presence. I sense your presence. I sense your presence. Om Shabbat Shalom, holy way of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shalom, I sense your presence. Om Shabbat Shalom, holy way of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shalom, I sense your presence. Om Shabbat Shalom, holy way of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shalom, I sense your presence. Om Shabbat Shalom, holy angel of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shalom, I sense your presence. I sense your presence.
And thank you for joining me here on Activating Compassion Radio. My name is Jessie Ann Nichols George, and I'm your hostess today. The music you were listening to at the beginning of the show was called I Sense Your Presence by Shem Shai. And I want to extend a welcome to everybody that's listening with us here today, whether you're listening for the very first time or whether you've listened to the show and you like what we do here and you're coming back to see what we're doing today. We do also stream live in 3 additional places: TalkStream Live, StreamFinder, and Penn, also known as Pair Encounters Network. And I welcome everyone listening through those channels as well. In addition to those that are catching our podcasts, which are available through iTunes, TuneIn.com, and also will be up on my YouTube channel in about a week to 2 weeks, somewhere in that time frame. Here at Activating Compassion Radio, what I do is I look at the different ways that compassion exists in our lives, how to remove our blocks, resistances, frustrations, and more. And some weeks what I'm doing is discussing different aspects of how compassion is in our life and affects our life and the different areas of compassion. And then some weeks I do more exercises or practical implementations. And a lot of times I have really great guests on the show. And that way you get a chance to learn how other people's work complements and works with compassion. And certainly I've got a great guest on today, Cynthia Mazzaferro. Oh, I hope I don't struggle with that name too much. I think I'm going to be good, though. And then sometimes I do highlight a lot of wonderful musical artists. So we've had Stephen Halpern, Peter Cater on in the past. This year I've been making my musical artists coordinate with the turning of the seasons, and I've had Woven Green on at the spring equinox. I had Angelia Grace at midday. I've got coming up some really great people that you'll definitely want to stay tuned for and watch for. Here at Activating Compassion, what I do, again, we just look at all these different aspects of how compassion fits in our life, taking that big concept, putting it into everyday life. In my own work, what I do is focus on helping people find and use compassion in their everyday lives. I have created the Genesis Clearing Statement, and if you've missed that, you can catch that where other people have interviewed me and see how that works. Also, going to my webpage, you'll find it on there, information on it there. I've authored 4 books, the most recent being You, Me, Life, Dreams, and its companion workbook, and then my first 2 books, Activating Compassion and its companion workbook. In addition, I've created the Compassion Tour, which is a multi-state nationwide tour, including workshops, retreats, seminars, book signings, and fundraising events. And I am on tour now. Matter of fact, I'm coming to you from the North Shores Library in the Muskegon area of Michigan, getting ready to head on up to Traverse City tonight. And I'll be in Traverse City, Michigan all weekend long, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And I'm doing 4 workshops back-to-back on Saturday, so going from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then Sunday and Monday I'm taking private session work there. And that's going to be at Higher Self. So if you're anywhere around that region, at least even stop in and say hi and say, hey, I've been listening to your show, and I just wanted to come meet you in person. And I love that. I love when people show up, whether I know they're coming or not. So it's really great. A reminder, if you do enjoy the show today, which I'm sure you're going to, make certain you tell your friends, share it out there on social media and things, wherever you feel inspired to share it. Because I find it seems like a really simple thing to do that, but there's always a life that I touch when I share a show. And there's always somebody that comes back and goes, man, I was just feeling cruddy, and then I listened to that show with your guest Cynthia, and everything turned around for me, or, wow, that was just the perfect topic. I've got a relative dealing with that, and, so you just never know. You might be literally saving a life or changing a life just by clicking the share button. And they can use the same link to come into the show that you did to get into our live show today. It's going to be available as soon as we finish today, so it's available right away. And I also keep those archived shows on my page of the Main Street Universe tab of my website, which, by the way, is JessieAnnNicholsGeorge1.com. Now, those that have listened before we get started here, one of the things I like to do is delve into a little book called 72 Names of God. It's by Yehuda Berg, and I love Yehuda's work because he does things kind of the way I do. He takes the big concepts, makes them apply to everyday life. And I love because the message is always applied. I just kind of go through the book, and whatever shows up for that week is what shows up, but it always fits perfectly, my music does that. I don't look. I just go down the list and say what's next in line, and my work with Yehuda does that. So this week, for today's show, we have Great Expectations. And that's the common name of God that we're dealing with today. And by the way, if you like these go up on my page of the Main Street Universe tab on my website. So you can go back and reflect on them throughout the week, which is really cool. I do it all the time. So I like to get back and work with the message for a whole week. So what he starts off with here is, when you expect the world from your friends, your family, or from life, and they don't deliver, call upon this name for some answers. And the insight that he gives with this is, why do our most positive actions often go unrewarded for long periods of time? Kabbalah teaches that this is to allow a space for our free will to shine forth. Within this space, great expectations creep in to challenge us. Tests of faith confront us. We expect a quick return on our spiritual investment. But when time delays it, we become doubtful, deeply disappointed, hopeless, and helpless. But we have free will to rise above these clouds of doom and gloom. By exercising this free will, we can truly earn our good fortune. Sometimes, of course, this can be an extremely difficult task, and a great expectation is a formidable adversary. The key to fulfillment is to simply shift our concentration away from results and expectations. Instead, we focus upon resisting our own impulsive reactions, which are nothing more than robotic responses to a given situation. In the moment that we resist expectation, we have exercised the sacred trait of free will. The ego is no longer in control, we are. And that opens wide the door to all possibilities. And the meditation that he gives with this is, by meditating on this name, you gain control over the power of time in your life. Instead of constantly demanding more of tomorrow, you appreciate what you have and what you are right now. False and self-seeking expectations are cast out. So again, the common name that we're dealing with today is Great Expectations, and the formal name is Aleph Yud Ayin. Aleph Yud Ayin. And that's our message from Yehuda this week. So very, very cool. Very happy to share that. And moving on, we're going to get a little thought going here to kind of get us in the flow of where we're headed today and what we're dealing with today. So this will give you a little something to think about before we go on break here. Do you busy yourself looking for something outside of yourself to solve your challenges? And do you believe that you will have the power you need when you achieve this or are able to do that? Do you avoid connecting with your power because you don't feel ready to make the necessary changes or are afraid of what it will be like to have that connection? So many times I see people that are intellectually are ready to connect to their personal power, but when it comes time to do the work, it's like the brakes are put on hard and fast, and excuses show up from everywhere of why they can't do something. For many, it seems that there are hidden fears and perhaps judgments of what it means to have this connection. Fear of having to be more accountable. Fear that life won't be as fun. Fear of not being able to use the power wisely once they have it. Now, these might sound silly on the surface. However, if we're honest with ourselves, many of us have probably come face to face with those very fears on our spiritual path. And there are judgments that we have to become stoic, solemn, and silent a good portion of the time. And all of life seems to have stereotypes, although few seem to be founded in the truth, and are usually only considering a couple of aspects. It's interesting to me to know how many people choose to live in a powerless or victim space, waiting for all their issues, challenges, and problems to get solved for them, or even how many people pull away from their path because they don't want to be accountable for themselves. Coming from my current place of understanding, I can understand the thoughts and feelings and also realize that there is no place that is more fun, enjoyable, and wonderful to be in. And I would tend to say that partly this is because people associate being accountable for the whole world and everything and everyone in it. In reality, it is about simply taking care of our own self and being accountable for us. We cannot account for everyone else, and they've got to do that themselves. However, in our own personal connection with our own power, we can become a living example of how wonderful that space can be. Cynthia Mazzaferro is one person that has chosen to help people find and connect with their personal power. And she strives to help them move out of their victim patterns and their sense of helplessness on their journey of life. And she reminds people that they hold the power to create a wonderful life for themselves, no matter what. And I think that this is so important on so many levels. As we step out of our helpless spaces, we automatically become help. The Earth's energy becomes lighter, and that makes it easier for it to take care of itself. We are also able to connect with the truth of who we are instead of all the distortions that so many choose to surround themselves with. In this space of empowerment, and this opens the door for us to live a life that we can love and appreciate and enjoy fully. What have you used to get out of victim spaces? And how does your life shift when you connect with your own inner power? And how do you feel when you are connected with and using your own inner power? This week, our guest focuses on a component of compassion related to the aspect in my books of loving self. And this reminds us that it's important to love ourselves each and every minute of the day, even when life isn't feeling good, especially when life isn't feeling good. We need to love ourselves. For in loving ourselves, we find our true power. I'm going to take a short break, and when we return, I will have Cynthia Mazzaferro with me, and we're going to be looking at her work on the power within. And I've actually got two songs for you during our break today called I'm Living in Your Shadow and Here We Are, and they're both by Claire Hedin. And you can check out more of Claire's work on her website, www.clairehedin.com. That's CLAREHEDIN.com. And we'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
And I'm living in your shadow, and it is much fun living in your shadow, wondering why I haven't gone. I'm living in your shadow, it's really not much fun. Sitting in the background, I'm watching you move forward in the passion of each day. Sitting in the background, fading right away, fading right away. And I'm wondering why I am still here. I'm wondering why I haven't got into my own gear. Sitting in your shadow and it isn't much fun. I tell you there's no sunshine when there is no sun. In the shadow, in the shadow, in the shadow, in the shadow. I light your way up for you for business and fun. I'm always hoping that someday you'll turn around and be my son, be my son. And I'm watching you move forward in the passion of each day, and I'm sitting in the background fading right away. I'm watching you move forward in the passion of each day, sitting in the background fading right away, fading right away.
And here we go with just the other little piece here. Here we are. We'll be right back. And welcome back. You are listening to Activating Compassion Radio, and my name is Jessie Ann Nichols George, and I'm your hostess today. You were just listening to two songs by Claire Hedin, and I really appreciate Claire for allowing me to use her music on the show. She was a guest of mine way back in the very first set of shows that I did. So, I greatly appreciate that. And those were called I'm Living in Your Shadow and Here We Are. And you can, again, check out more of her work at clairehedin.com. That's www.clairehedin.com. And today I have with me Cynthia Mazzaferro, and she's a transformational presenter, coach, and energy practitioner. She's been teaching and inspiring thousands for over 30 years and has created 3 essential keys to find the power within. She is a Reiki master, retired physical therapist, and previous owner of ergonomic and educational company. Cindy has a unique ability to extrapolate from you vital information that helps to identify your soul lessons and empower you to take steps to embrace opportunities to grow and evolve as a soul. We're discussing today Cynthia's work in emotional energetics and I am just twisted up today, ergonomics, and how using the power within process will give you results way beyond your wildest imagination. Cindy will be offering a special gift today also to listeners, so you will not want to miss this fabulous opportunity to stay tuned throughout the whole show. You can learn more about her work at www.cynthiamazzaferro.com. That's CYNTHIAMAZZAFERRO.com. Or you can also go to thepowerwithinprograms.com, and that's thepowerwithinprograms.com, just like it sounds. She's also got a Facebook page that you can check out, The Power Within, Cynthia Mazzaferro, and Cindy's upcoming book, The Power Within, 3 Essential Keys to a Vibrant, Passionate, and Empowered You, is going to be available coming up in 2016. So you definitely want to follow up with this work here. Now I'm going to get her mic opened up. And Cynthia, welcome so much to Activating Compassion Radio.
Thank you so much, Jessie. It's really an honor to be here with you and your guest.
And, this is great because the last couple of weeks I've had some pretty intense topics going on. We've had some topics about depression, and then we've had some very intense inward sacred attention type things. And I think you're going to probably end up lightening the show up a little bit. But before we really get going here, I'd love for you to share a little bit about your journey into what you're doing and, why this modality, what led you to this thing as opposed to all the other options that are out there.
Great. Thank you for asking. Let me tell you, when I was a young child, I always felt my hands were very special. And I used to say it to my mom. And I went into medicine. I was turned into a physical therapist and felt that was my calling. But early on, when I was about 7 years old, my parents got divorced. And my father had been a airport pilot and wasn't really around much. And as we all have life, we always have situations that occur that influence us, possibly in a positive way and also in a negative way. It's how we perceive it. And so when my parents got divorced, I really perceived that as a rejection, abandonment. What did I do wrong? I wasn't enough to have him leave me. And I actually had 4 other sisters, so we had 5 beautiful little girls aging from 9 years old to 9 months old, and he left us all. And talk about rejection and feeling abandoned. And throughout my whole childhood, adult life, and even into my married life where I had children, I had different times where I struggled with wanting to have male affirmation. I needed a man to tell me I was a wonderful woman. And even when I had my own business and I worked with CEOs and engineers and did training with their employees, which were often men, and I was getting all these acclamations and feeling really great about myself and my business, there was this inner part of me that still was not satisfied. And I started to do my own spiritual work, my own personal work as to why is it that I was finding that I wasn't feeling adequate. I wasn't feeling satisfied within myself. No matter how much people would say that's a great idea and everything that should make me feel good. And during my personal journey, I actually realized that you can have 1 million people tell you you're wonderful, but until you find yourself wonderful, you will never be. And so as I started working with my patients and clients later on, I started hearing my patients start to tell me about what was going on in their life during their rehabilitation. And I often found that their stories in their personal lives often had a connection, not always, but often had a connection to the physical symptoms that they were having. And so we can go into a little bit later into the connection of there, but that our bodies are very porous. They're like a sponge, and we take in information. We take in information from our families, our spouses, our religions, culture, government, institution, education, and then we also take on our own perception of things, which has a whole emotional component to it. And with all of these information being absorbed into you, it affects who we become and who we kind of mold and transform. And often that's not in harmony with who we truly are as an essence and as our soul. And so we create a discord, a disconnect of who we are. And so we become discompassionate to ourselves because we're not in that harmonic, energetic flow that is continuous. And so it's coming back to finding that inner power within yourself where you feel peaceful, content, just loving and being in a presence of totally satisfaction of who you are. And that's a really fabulous place once you get there.
You know, it really is fabulous once you get there. And I look at this and I think a lot of people can relate because whether the rejection or sense of abandonment happened when they were younger or when they're older, the pattern is the same. And that sense of self-worth is everything. As you say, I think early on in my life, I too looked for the affirmations. I was always looking, you know, to be affirmed, be it in the workplace or relationships, just like yourself. And so this is a really huge piece. And now I'm seeing a whole new layer of this come out, even among light workers and healers and energy workers and spiritual people who are feeling a sense of abandonment or rejection from their own biological families going on. This is a big pattern because it's kind of the universe has gone in this direction of, okay, I can't stay in the negative energy, but you know, I've got to, you know, it's just a pull, you know, it's a pull for people. So I'm really glad that you brought that piece up about that in there. I think that's huge.
Right, and I think what you're saying is part of what my message is, and that is that I believe we all have soul, S-O-U-L, lessons that we need to learn during our physical life here on Earth, and that our environment and the family that you're in, the situation, the environment that you live in, provides you those opportunities to learn and grow as a soul. And so what happens, you refer to the universe. The universe will continue to provide you opportunity to actually teach you and give you the opportunity to learn those soul lessons. Because just like yourself, as you were talking about families possibly rejecting a certain career path that someone might be taking, and you mentioned light workers, spiritual workers, could be anything though. Someone that's actually changing their gender. Excuse me, you could possibly have a rejection with the family. I also had another opportunity later in my life where my family had become everything for me, and I loved raising my two boys. And my husband worked 60 hours a week, and our relationship had deteriorated, and we actually started to have marital struggles as well. And there was a time that he actually walked out for 2 weeks. And it was like, oh, my gosh, another important man in my life just totally walked out. And his words were, I love you, but I can't live with you. And I'm like, how do you love someone and not be able to live with them? I mean, what is it? I mean, just couldn't understand how he could just be throwing me away like my father had done. But, you know, in the time that you're going through, you're crushed. You're devastated. I was crumbling. Felt terrible about myself, and how could I change myself? The first thing we want to do is, what can I do to be different to make them want to stay? And that just creates more disharmony within yourself. But it's what we instinctively want to do. But I actually, my husband and I have reunited and everything is fine. And sometimes that doesn't happen and sometimes it does. But it was really, now looking back, it was really a blessing in disguise for me. It was the silver lining for both my father leaving and the struggle that my husband and I went through, because it allowed me to find this greater peace, this greater inner power within me. I didn't need them to be able to sustain myself. And when you get to that realization that, first of all, these things that are happening, these struggles that are happening, they're not traumatic things. We create them to be traumatic, and they are emotional at the time. But they're opportunities for us to learn. And when you can kind of de-emotionalize and step away for a moment and look at it from that vantage point, And then later on, you'll see there is really wisdom in that opportunity.
And, and that is a big thing, because I think it is so easy for people to get wrapped up in, this is happening to me, my life is horrible, everything's falling apart. And to be able to stop for a moment and go, okay, what's my opportunity here? Because there's always an opportunity, as you say, in that challenge. Whatever is frustrating us, irritating us, there's always an opportunity there. And sometimes that's hard to see, like you mentioned, when you're in the midst of feeling all of that rejection and everything, it's hard to go, oh, this is an opportunity for me to gain my own self-worth. It's not the first thing on our mind in that process. So, it's a big piece in there. So
and actually, it's almost counterproductive. It's what you think you're supposed to be feeling, and what you are feeling is actually what you need to say. I don't need to feel this way. It's actually the bait. It's when you're fishing. It's actually the bait that you're trying to do the opposite. And we can go into an example of this, but actually, my husband found me to be more desirable when instead of trying to turn in what he wanted me to be, or what I perceived and wanted him to be, when I started to feel better about myself and where I was, he liked that I was a strong, confident woman, that I wasn't, I became more energetic within myself, more passionate, compassionate, and what I emitted out to the world was a different me than when I was unhappy. So I encourage everyone, when you're struggling with a situation and emotion that you're dealing with, to actually look at that and say, is this a factual emotion? Yes, you're feeling it, but is it justified? Is it your perception? Is it of someone interacting with you that is in error? Is it a false belief that you took on when you were very young that you permeated throughout your life and continue to use those same templates even in the current day? And that often is the case.
I agree, because I've, in a lot of my growth and working on myself, I've often looked back and, I never realized until I would start doing the work, so to say, start walking the path, how much came out of that childhood time frame. And the programmings that we don't even realize are there a lot of times that show up, and it's like, oh. And then I look back and go, okay, where did some of this start? Oh, yeah, I remember this patterning coming through. And it's, I think in this work you really have to get, when you're tapping into the power within, and I agree, because I've had the same experience. It's something that I work with all the time with people, that they've got to find their own self-confidence, their own self-worth. It's not about changing who they are for somebody else. If that person's right for them, they're going to like them for who they really are. And it's the confidence, and that's, I've brought that out in my relationship work, is that, people wonder, well, why is that girl who's so superficial, who's, doesn't care about anything, is getting all the guys? Well, she's got all the confidence in a lot of ways. She displays herself very confidently. Not that it's genuine always, but, she displays herself with a certain confidence. It's the same sort of thing. If we walk in with a certain level of confidence, then we're going to bring that back to us, I would say. And that comes into having that connection, I would say, with the inner power, as you put it. And maybe you can explain more about what that inner power really is.
I can, but I want to just bring up the word confidence and the confident person you just talked about, that we all can remember back in high school, the woman, I'll say girl because we're both girls here, the woman who is got all the guys, like you said, or all of the interaction, are very extroverted. And, you think she's got everything on her plate. She's well-liked, she's in the right group, oh, my gosh, she's beautiful, blah, 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 blah. And so we perceive, everyone looking upon that she is totally self-confident. And I will beg to differ. Because what happens is we are all different individuals. Now, that girl could have had a twin sister in the same identical environment growing up. And both her parents could have said to them and taught them, parents talk, children are quiet, they could not have been, they might have been in a really great household, were fed and had a shelter and taken care of well, but maybe the parents weren't really good at listening to their emotional needs. And were told, adults talk, you children are quiet. And so one person, their perception is, I'm going to become quiet, I'm going to become the wallflower, I'm going to feel I'm not enough, no one wants to hear what I'm saying. That's her personality. That's how she took it in. That's her defense mechanism. Because she actually everybody wants to succeed and wants to thrive as a body. Your goal is to exist, okay? Your body's built that way. So this one person, we'll say child A, ends up becoming the introvert. The child B, same family, they're twins. This particular child says, I'm going to rebel. I'm not going to do what my parents say. I'm not going to be quiet. I'm going to become loud and boisterous, and I'm going to let everyone hear my voice. And so you perceive that she is very strong and articulate. But inside, she's really screaming at the top of her lungs, please pay attention to me. Because inside, she is very unhappy because no one really knows who and what and how she feels.
And
so
that's
it's very
really
interesting. Go ahead, Jessie.
And I was just going to say, and that's such a good point, because it shows that insecurity or that same pattern can manifest in these different forms. It's not just like, okay, you didn't get attention, so you're always in the background. It has different ways that it shows itself, is what you're saying.
Absolutely. And the same person, let's continue on as their life goes on. Because they each took on a defense mechanism. They each took on a wound that they perceived, and they decided how to create that wound within themselves. Because remember, until you're the age of 8, you really don't have a consciously mature way to integrate information. And if you look at Dr. Lipton's work, he talks extensively about this as well as other resources. Elizabeth Noble is another one. But so your mind, again, is that porous sponge. So you're taking in information, and everyone is unique and different, and we take in our own information. And we decide how are we going to survive with this pain, and we create, there's a wound there, and we create a wall, a barrier to protect ourselves so we don't hurt so much anymore. And so now this child A has grown through high school, college, marriage maybe, working in the career world, and she's still this employee who's the quiet person who does what is asked of her, and she just is content. But inside she struggles with, I still have never been able to sing my song, or I just feel like there's more to life. And her boss is saying to her when she does her performance reviews, Mary, I would love to have you, for example, take on a leadership role. I'd love to have you go and present this at such and such a meeting. And she goes, oh, no, I couldn't do that. I'm not comfortable. But see, that's the universe providing an opportunity for her to finally speak, to have her work, to have this opportunity. And so it's actually stepping into, and this is one of the terms I use, stepping into what is uncomfortable, where you will actually find your greatest reward. So, for example, this child A, her sole lesson is that she needs to see value in herself, to not be quiet anymore, to be able to express herself, to see that she has value and content that is important to the world, and that when she realizes that, that's her goal here as a soul on earth, that then she'll be able to actually be able to do her soul work that she's supposed to do and was born to do in this world. And so she can either choose, we have that free will you talked about earlier on. I have a free will. Do I stay submissive, stay in the discontent and sublime role that I've been playing, or do I step into something new, into this part of challenge and opportunity and growth, and even a fearful situation because it's uncomfortable for you, where you're going to see the greatest reward. So that would be child A. Child B's soul lesson would be, you've been ranting and raving your whole life, trying to get attention. And why are you trying to get attention? And so that particular child, and as we grow and evolve through our journey, hopefully you've seen through your life that, I'm this really loud boss. I yell and tell people what they're going to do. I might say politely, please and thank you and all that stuff, but I still have to exert my authority and my power. And so what happens, they're exerting their power. We've all heard about bullies in schools and, shootings and this, and it's all about exerting power because they have no power within themselves. And so their potential soul lesson would be that your power is inside you. You don't have to exert power upon others to find power within. And so it is through this type of work that I do and help people to understand what their soul lessons are, that once you can clarify it and articulate that soul lesson, then you can say, okay, I'm not going to run away from this anymore. I'm going to take this on. And when you take it on, and it's fun, let me tell you, it's really fun. When you realize what it is you're taking on, you see it happen all around you. You'll say, oh, my gosh, I'm going to stop it right now. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to continue this pattern of behavior and thought process and emotions. And then your life will change in every aspect of your life.
That's a really powerful place to be. And I think that a lot of people spiral around trying to figure out what their soul lesson is and go,
exactly,
I don't have a clue. How do I figure that out? What do I do? How do I get there? So how does somebody get there? How do they figure out what that soul lesson is?
Well, like I said, it's a little counterintuitive in that it's actually opposite of what you think. And so what I would first encourage people to do is to really first just close your eyes and take a moment and say, what is the first memory that comes back to you that probably has played in your mind over and over at different times in your life that you can recall? And just think on that moment. For me, it was my father leaving and how that impacted me. That was one of my biggest ones. Everyone has one, and I would encourage you to write that down on a piece of paper. And when we do this, I like to, in my book and when I talk with my classes and teach, I actually say you become the private investigator of your own life. That means you're not living it. You're looking at it from a private investigator. Outside, taking your camera, taking notes, and you're examining it. So you're, like a psychiatrist or a psychologist, they'll ask you to relive the negative experience. I don't do that. You don't have to relive it. You've relived it all your life. And what has happened is changed and kind of morphed in that time, and your emotions and your mental thought processes of it are totally distorted. They're not even factual anymore. So I encourage you just to think upon the moment, the memory, and write down what it was, who were the people involved, and write down what is their play in it. Were they disengaging? Were they threatening? Were they yellers? Were they physically harmful? Were they abusive verbally? There's many, alcoholic and didn't give you the attention. Anything and everything, you write it down. Your soul wants to express its feelings, so it will help you write. And again, you're not reliving them. So, as much as you're going to have emotional ties to it, it's just writing it down from a more unbiased position. And so then you want to look at, this is the feeling. Write down the feeling word. What is the feeling that you have, the emotion? So for me, it was abandonment. He just left me. I wasn't good enough. How could he just leave me? I was like trash, never to be in my life at all. And so it was like, did he tell me I was trash? No. Did he say, I don't care about you? No. But it was my perception that created all those feelings. So I would encourage you, as you start to look back and you have this memory, what was your perception? Because, and you mentioned this with the resource that you asked people to contemplate before we actually started the interview, and that is I'm all about empowering the individual because I believe we create who we are, the good and the bad. And so by doing this, I'm giving you empowerment, accountability, ownership, responsibility. And you are right, Jesse. Many people don't want to do this. They don't want to take on this accountability. But you are responsible for you, and no one else is. If you allow Mr. X outside of you to infiltrate your space, then that's you allowing it to happen. So you're the one that's responsible for what happens to you. And you are right also, we shouldn't be responsible for everyone else. That's their journey. But you really have to find the power within yourself to realize that you are empowered to make the changes, to see the lessons that the opportunities present themselves with. So when you can identify the emotion that you felt with that particular memory, you can say, okay, this was my feeling I took on. This is my emotion. This is my belief. And then what I did because I was hurting, this is my defense that I incorporated for it so that I could survive, so that I could mask the pain. And when you write all those components down, then you've got to say, okay, great. So have I been continuing to think these same thoughts from X years old throughout my life? Did it happen in high school? Have I seen this in my career? Have I seen this in the way my children look upon me, or my sister, my siblings, anybody, my boss? Is this the same type of behavior that I emit, E-M-I-T, almost like a deodorant, your body odor? Is this what you emit out to the world? And if it is, then you're going to get that same type of energy back. If I'm unhappy with myself, then should people look upon me and see something different than what I see? And my answer is no. The world is a mirror upon yourself. So what you present to the world, it will also be reflected back to you.
And I think that's a really great explanation of how several things come together and several things work in our lives. Because wherever we do have that pain, there is going to be a coping mechanism. There is going to be some way we adapt with it. And there are so many people that do spiral around looking for somebody else to be accountable and responsible for them. And as long as we're doing that, we're always going to be disappointed. We're going to feed our own pattern of unworth in that sense. Like, look, I'm not even worthy of them doing this for me or caring for me in the way I don't even care for myself. It's a huge piece. And to say, these are the actions that happen that I remember. And even if they're true, even if what you're perceiving is true, in a sense that's almost irrelevant. Because, again, we need to bring it back. If I'm understanding you correctly, we need to bring it back to ourselves and say, okay, so this happened. This was my perception of it. It may or may not have been the truth and what the other person was feeling, thinking, whatever. And this is how I chose to cope with it. And this is how it's still playing out in my life today. So, I think that as you mentioned, that key of accountability. And I think this is hard because I don't think, we can sit there and say self-worth and like if somebody asked me, do you think you have strong self-worth? And I could say, yeah, I think I do have pretty strong self-worth. But if I really start breaking it down, I can definitely see the chinks in that self-worth. And maybe other people don't see them, but I do. And it provides the answers. From what I can see, it provides some of the answers to maybe why something isn't working out in our life or why something isn't flowing. If we're doing all the other steps, we're not doing things in Mercury retrograde, or we're following all the steps, so to say, and there's still that things happening, then somewhere there's a chink there. somewhere there's a piece there that this is still playing out.
Definitely, yeah. And what happens, unfortunately, too, the more you negate or ignore these opportunities of growth, because that's what you're here as a soul to learn and to grow from. So it's like, someone initially knocks on the door, quietly not to wake up the baby because you're a little child. And then you might not hear the noise, might not hear the knock. And as you get older, they knock a little louder. The universe knocks and presents a little more often. And then the more you ignore all these little opportunities, which even are struggles at times, they become louder and louder and intensified because the earth is shaking, trying to get your attention. And we've all heard sometimes you have to be knocked down to the floor when you are so out of control of your life. That's where you find the greatest, I can get up again and I can thrive, I can survive. But my hope is that you don't have to be knocked so far down to have to climb back up. And by using these tools and understanding where you are and not become the victim, but become the victor. Not because you have to win the race, but because it is your journey. And just to be able to find this piece of, I can just accept what is going on today, because that's all there really is, right? We can never relive the past, and we can never live in the future. We only have the moment. We've all heard, live in the moment. And that sounds so easy, doesn't it? But it really isn't. But even those of you that are listening, but even for those of you listening on this call today, you are in this moment. Now, how many of you are thinking about, I got to cook dinner tonight, or I got to go pick up the children, or whatever, or you had an argument with somebody yesterday and you're really still feeling angry about it. You're not really engaged in the moment within this call. So when you start to learn to really enjoy and be in the moment and touching other people's lives and touching your own life in that spirituality way, you start to resonate and energetically be in a different space, in a different place of happiness and harmony.
Yes.
Have you felt that way, Jessie?
Yes, because there's so much that we miss in that multitasking process, and we get very panicked in the sense that I've got to multitask. Otherwise I won't get everything done. There's this panic that, and that comes back to a lot of self-worth patterns. And when you were talking, I was thinking, I've communicated with a lot of spiritual people trying to bring their work out into the world, and I tend to coach a lot of coaches. That's one of the things that happens for me. So, I can bring this in, but it applies to everybody, whether they're a coach or whether they're going and working in a profession or whatever it is. And, there's an aspect, for example, with coaches that I see a lot where they go, okay, I'm really comfortable with what I'm putting out. I'm really confident about what I have to share and the information and this and that. But people aren't showing up. And I as you're talking, I'm going, okay, well, there's a piece there that we can feel confident about maybe what we have to share, still may not feel worthy of people showing up in our life or afraid of them to show up in our life because of these patterns. So, that really kind of went, yes. Because if we're not feeling worthy of people showing up, it doesn't matter how great what we have to offer is, in a sense. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And I think that's true with relationships. If we look at it, not in the coach's level, but in the aspect of everyday life where people are always looking for a partner in life. And, they might think, wow, I have all this really great stuff to offer a partner, but they might not be feeling worthy of having that partner in their life that they're seeking.
Exactly. And that is a really awesome connection. And I have two things to say about that I think is so relevant. One is that because my father left, I felt that I was rejectionable. I was able to people didn't want me. They would abandon me. There was always that risk. So there was an energy or a belief that I would be abandoned again in the future. So is those my thoughts actually what caused the unrest with my husband? Did I actually create the same fear that I feared to begin with? So there's that commonality there because, again, it's the energetic imprint of what you expect and what you've absorbed as that sponge that you actually create in your life. And I have on my wall right now a beautiful part of a poem, a prayer actually, by Marianne Williamson. And it speaks to this, and I'm just going to say 2 little sentences of it. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. The very first part is, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. So it is actually when you realize that you are powerful and you have a special thing you're supposed to do in this world and to have your presence be known and shown, that is where we're the most scared. Because it's showing you become vulnerable.
Yes. And I think that there is a lot of fear behind that and a lot of subtle fears, from fear of being that great, fear of being watched, being judged, there's a whole ton of them that go with that, embracing the power, because you can't necessarily embrace the power and not get noticed, especially in this world today, because, it's like if there's darkness everywhere and you're a light, guess what? You're going to get noticed. And so I think there's a huge fear that goes with that success there. So tell us a little more about this aspect of being powerful and tapping into this, because I came up with a thing because a while back I did a show with Lorraine Cohen, and we were talking about power, and so many people were struggling with that word power and being powerful, and you see so many people go, oh, we can't be that way if we're human beings. We can't be powerful. That's only God's thing, sort of thing. And I came up with this thing that from power, I was playing with words from, Sharita Starr plays with words, and she does these sort of anagram types of things. Then I was playing around with the word of power. I go, well, let me see what's really in power and what that energy is about. And I came up with this. We're a rope aboard that without this power are poor. In other words, our power is our fibers of divine strength. The ore is the golden light, and that's the divine strength. We are of the divine, and without accepting that, we consist of these fibers of divine strength. We have nothing and are nothing. To accept this is also, to not accept this, is also to not accept that we come from this. It's a pretty intense thing.
That's beautiful, Jessie. I love that. It's really gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I
right
so agree. I so agree with you. That, I think people are afraid of power, and I'd like to just kind of define power. I think, and even myself, initially I think people think of power as someone that's loud, that has made a huge influence and impact, shows a lot of strength, visible strength. I don't think we see power as a soft, subtle, more non-tangible way. But power, you can have some of the strongest power and never have it be seen. An earthquake, there's rumbles under the different mantles of the earth that we never see. And there's so much power there. The stress, the pressure that we put on different parts of our soil actually is so powerful it creates diamonds. So there's a lot of power that we never see, and that you don't have to be loud and visible necessarily to be powerful. And that when I speak of power within you, that doesn't mean power where you're trying to overpower others. The power within you is a place of being, of divine essence, that you are totally harmonious with you and whatever religious word that you want to use, whether you are in harmony with your creator, the universe, God, Ali, whomever you speak of, or just a special essence and energy. I'm not here to try to convert anyone to my religion. I do believe in the divine. I believe in God, but I'm not here to try to teach you that. What I'm trying to say is everyone needs to be harmonious and in connection to who they feel and connect with. And when you find that you're in harmony with who you are as an essence within yourself, the divine greatness, not that you're perfect. We're not perfect. We will never be perfect. But to love your imperfection and to be one with yourself, that is this inner power of grace that you receive. And when you're in this space, it doesn't really matter what anyone else says to you about you. You can listen to their comments. There's relevancy in what they're saying. I choose. I have free will. They're just saying it because they're jealous. Or, yes, maybe I was over-emotional, and it's my choice whether I decide to take that information or not. But you become in a place of being able to consciously, in the mind, articulate and evaluate, is that information that you're perceiving or attaining by an external force, is it relevant? Is it compatible with what you believe and know is to be true? And when we start to use our own metric system, and I think this is really powerful, that when you become comfortable with who you are and know this space, then your metric of value is your own metric of value. Because if I, for example, Jesse, if I had you determine what my value is based on your metric system, which who knows where your metric system came from, because you came from a family and your wounds and where you are emotionally today are going to be different from tomorrow. And why should I allow you to decide how to value me at this moment?
Exactly.
It totally makes no sense at all, but we do this. Every one of us do this all the time.
We do.
It's really amazing.
I think this is one of the big things that is programmed into us. You've got to be a certain way. You've got to have certain things to be acceptable in society. There's all kinds of pieces there. You've got to go to certain places. You've got to dress a certain way. There's all kinds of things that we look outside of ourselves for. And instead of saying, yeah, but is that really me? Am I really meant to go to college? Am I really meant to take a trade profession? Am I really meant to do this? Is that what I choose? And that choice is a huge thing, I think. And to me, I feel like being powerful or tapping into the power within has a lot to do with how connected we are, or how connected, I should say, how connected we choose to be. Because when we're connected, we're going to be powerful. When we're connected with God, the divine, whatever word you want to use, you can't help but be powerful, and you're meant to be powerful.
Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, your world will exponentially unfold in front of you. I have miracles that happen every day almost. I mean, literally, and profound ones. I mean, unbelievable. And, I think I'd like to just bring something up. I had never shared this with anyone else, but it just happened within the last day and a half on Facebook. I posted a post that said and asked for people to help me out. I wanted to get some data because part of my book is dealing with emotions, which is really perceptions, how our emotions are affected. And what I asked was, which of these emotions has the strongest negative implication on you? And the 5 choices were anger, guilt, hopelessness, resentment, and victimization. And within 2 minutes after posting that, I got constantly beep, 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 beep. And all these people started commenting, responding, answering this quiz. And it went over almost 50,000 people in reach in a day and a half.
Wow.
Actually, within a day, already at 48,000. But I spent hours collecting all the data because I needed to get the data. What were people picking, A, B, C, or D, or E? So as you're listening, listeners, what would you have picked? Anger, guilt, hopelessness, resentment, or victimization? And as you pick, I'm going to tell you what the results were as of this morning. So the top two were anger, hopelessness. Those are the top two. Anger was at 304, and hopelessness was 295. And then the others fell below that. They were in about the 150s each. And so I guess my question would be to people is, why are we so angry? Why does anger devastate us? And what are we angry about? And that's, again, becoming harmonious with who we are. We're angry because what we're doing, what we're thinking, what we're feeling is totally in contrast to who we are, what our soul is, what our soul essence is. And that when you feel this anger and disconnect, you feel a sense of hopelessness because you feel like I got to be that hamster on the hamster wheel. I'm going to go out and I'm going to pick up the kids at school. I'm going to make my supper. I've worked my 8 hours, and now it's 9 o'clock at night, and I got to go to bed, and everything starts again tomorrow. Is this the schedule? Is this the type of living that I feel like my heart is singing? Yes or no? Maybe it is, because I loved it when I was raising my children, but there came a time I said there's more to than just this. So the question is finding that unrest that you have within you and discerning what is it, and that hopelessness is a terrible state of being where you have to ask yourself, how did I get myself here? And there is never a time of being totally hopeless because, again, that's your choice to be in that space.
And I would imagine out of those 5 things that you posted, that plays right back into the formula that you gave. Again, hopelessness oftentimes playing right into our self-worth and those judgments about ourselves. If you have these patterns, for example, like you had of abandonment and different things like that early on in life, it would be very easy to establish a hopeless pattern. Not only am I not worthy or not wanted, but, a sense of it doesn't matter what I do, these people aren't going to like me anymore.
Exactly. And, it wasn't just those 2 situations in my life. I can give you little ones, little subtle things. I would be walking down the sidewalk with my husband and 2 sons who are now close to 30, 28 and 30. And in my mind, the 3 guys would be in the front talking, and I would be behind them in the sidewalk. And I would, in my mind, this is my perception, no one articulating this to me, but in my mind, I was saying, well, look at that. That's pretty inconsiderate of those 3 guys. See, they think I'm a second-class citizen. I'm behind them. Now, they didn't say that, but I felt it. And that was my perception. And, of course, it went right back to 3 men. It's a masculine thing in this. So there's a masculine energy that I'm feeling not equal to a man, that they can discard me or put me behind. But that's all my past still coming into the present moment. So to even those little subtleties continue to infuse the present moment, which I started to say to myself, well, that's ridiculous, Cindy. Just go up and go right in between them and just hug their arm and get involved in their conversation, which then I started to do. And I said, don't become the victim and stay behind them. Be engaging and go up and engage yourself in a conversation. So we have to activate. We have to create action plans, and that's what I do with my life coaching. And I do life coaching, group coaching, which is a little more economical, too. If you want, you can look at my website. But these are the things that help you create action steps that you can change being the victim. You have that choice. And it's really invigorating when you can actually see it in front of you and hear it in your mind when it happens. You're like, stop. And this is one of the tools I teach in my book and my classes. It's called Stop, Look, and Listen. We've all heard of stop, drop, and roll for when you're on fire, right? Well, mine is stop, look, and listen. So what that means is when you're getting a mental image in your mind and you're not feeling good about it, it's a negative or a condescending thought, stop. Even say to yourself, if you know, inside or verbally, just stop. Cindy, don't go there. Because first of all, assess it. Is it a true threat? You know, if you're being stalked from behind and you have to run because you're fear of your life, then you go run. But if you're thinking someone's behind you because you just have a poor self-esteem or you think that you walked into a room and everyone's laughing at you, well, someone could have just told a great joke, but you perceive it as they're laughing at you. You have to say, were they really laughing at me, or is it my vulnerability, insecurities that makes me think they were laughing at me? And so what you're doing, you stopped yourself, and now you're looking at it. You're looking at the scenario. Is it a true statement? Is it a true feeling that you're feeling? And then you're listening. You're listening to your soul, your intuition, and you're processing it. Is this a factual thing, or how should I really intervene? And so those are just it seems really simple, but it makes it in the moment. You're now dealing with the moment, the now, and you're consciously not thinking about an old memory, an old behavior pattern that you've taken on and assumed the rest of your life. You're now just saying, I choose not to act that way or think that way or feel that way. And that this is the way I'm going to act and I'm going to react and feel about it. And so that's just one very simple little tool that you can use to help you stop the same cycle, the same repetitive patterns that you've used throughout your life.
And, you know, it's very interesting that you're bringing this up because I had a little fluke of my show last week, and we redid the show yesterday. And the stop, look, and listen was part of that exact same thing they were talking about yesterday. And, you know, but you kind of clarified it in the sense of when we're looking at it's really an aspect of looking at, is this the truth? What is actually happening here? And it may be that somebody was laughing at you, and if that's the case, then there's a different approach. I mean, I had that experience recently. I was at a laundromat washing up all my stuff, and, you know, I guess I made a comment or something just about, oh, I guess I won't do this, or I won't use the restroom because of this, or something like that. And all of a sudden I became the butt of everybody's joke that was in there. And, you know, it was awkward because here I am dealing in compassion, and here these people are, I felt like I was back in grade school or high school, and everybody was making fun of me. And it was like, oh, my gosh. And, you know, I just kind of stepped back from the whole situation. I thought, how strange for me to experience that, you know, and that trigger. And just as you're talking, I'm seeing these different things. And, you know, I didn't believe it. It was, you know, I kind of just wrote it off like, you know, here's some people, they have their own stuff going on. I knew the one person did based on some phone conversations they were having, and, you know, they needed someplace else to project their energy on. You know, so I did have to get into it, and even in that situation, I could say, okay, yeah, in a sense they were picking on me, but were they really picking on me? No, they really probably had this other thing going on in their life, and they needed to vent somewhere or put their attention on somebody else for a while or something. So, you know, it may not even been so much about me in that process.
Was the universe actually presenting a scenario for you to further grow and not become the victim that they're picking on you? And so you would have to look back in your past. Is that a pattern that you've always felt, that people have judged you, maybe falsely judged you, and that's some aspect that you're still trying to work on as a soul? Remember, you know, when we go to school, you know, high school, or, you know, when you finally get to pick which curriculum you're taking, you know, whether you're taking math or history or what type of history, think of it this way. When you came into the earth, you already had chosen what your curriculum was going to be. So, for example, the story you just said, maybe your curriculum that you're learning in this lifetime is you're not going to pick on me anymore. And so you're still in chapter 4, and there's 10 more chapters to go. I don't know. I'm just taking a parallel here. But the point is that we all have a curriculum that we're learning, and it's our opportunities that present themselves, often in struggles, often where you feel uncomfortable and emotional. That is the framework, that is the stage front, that's the classroom that you're learning that curriculum in. It's very interesting.
And I could say that you're very accurate about that, because at the time that happened, I was in a space of feeling like I was the victim of circumstances. I don't tend to be a person who sits around and has a pity party. That's not me. I'm always like, why am I this way? What's going on? And I do a lot of that. But I do have my times too. And it was a time where a lot of things were crashing down on me at one time. And, I felt like I hadn't even poked a hole in the rubble and more was crashing down on me. So I was kind of coming out of one of those times. So I could definitely see where I was in that space of feeling that I was a victim. And
Cynthia, I want to just say, I think it's so wonderful what you're sharing, because it gives it a very active. Jessie and I have never talked about this. She's sharing something that's very, very current. I have no idea what she was saying here. So this is very similar to listeners as you're starting to hear things. But what I want to say to Jessie is, if I may, Jessie, is that first of all, what haven't you been able to survive in your life? Can you name me one thing? Because you're here. And so, like you said, everything that might be tumbling down on you right now, and we all have different times in our life when we do get tumbled down on. Nobody is absent from that feeling, okay? But we have all made it to our present moment now. So if you're here, you've made it. You've survived everything. And we can always go back and look, I wish I did it this way. I wish I maybe had more strength here, or had more compassion here, or whatever, more voice, less voice. We can always value and judge what we could have done different. But the point is that we all are strong enough to bear anything that is coming down on us. And even in this place of hopelessness, of this heavy weight that you're bearing, you and us and them and everybody, we all have our moments of feeling this heavy weight. That remember, and this is the glint of hope, that you will get through this, because in 5 years, looking back at this moment, you're going to say, yeah, it was crappy. It was really awful, maybe. It was devastating, whatever. That, you know what, I made it through it. So if you can just look at that at the moment now and say, if I was looking back at this in 5 years, I know I'm going to make it through this, then I'm not going to be so overwhelmed. I'm not going to be so emotional and so devastated, because I will survive this. I know it. I know it in my essence. I know it in my heart and soul. I know it in my Creator, God, whomever is going to be there with me. I know without a doubt that I will continue on. And so when you know that and you believe that, then the present moment, however difficult it might be, doesn't seem as difficult. Yes. And so then what you want to say to yourself, how can I make this less difficult for me? Am I making it more difficult for me? Am I running away? Am I avoiding settling down? Am I avoiding the job that's being offered? Am I avoiding conflict? I don't know, whoever. Everybody addressed it on their own part. I'm not just talking to you, Jesse. I'm talking about anybody with any of those comments. What is it that you're avoiding or running away or fearing that's creating or adding to the stress? And, of course, there's medical issues, there's health issues. And that's a whole different component, being a Reiki master, that I believe there are connections with what is happening emotionally and through the mental process, and how that affects us energetically. And the longer that those energies are dysfunctional, impacted, then eventually you'll get physical illnesses, physical symptoms, and that's another whole component. But, I don't know if that helped clarify that situation or not for you, Jesse, and for the listeners.
Well, I think so, and I think what you're presenting here, too, there's a very important connection for people to make here, in my opinion, and that is that you can be born under a certain astrological sign or with certain coding or all of those types of things that might very well be inherent, or a gene that creates a certain physical disability or whatever it is for you. But it doesn't mean that you have to totally buy into that's how life is going to be. So, for example, I might be coded with energy that is prone to draw people in who are going to deceive me, who are going to betray me, whatever the case is. But what you're saying is to look at those things and say, okay, I have these things perhaps in me. I have such and such a physical issue going on. For example, I deal with relapsing multiple sclerosis. I deal with systemic lupus erythematosus. I deal with a lot of different things that I've overcome in my life. Those are two of the big ones. And yet, what is their purpose? Their purpose is to help me find worth. Their purpose is to help me stop being a victim to things. You're offering a way of looking at the situations that we deal with that make us feel that way, and saying, okay, here's what I'm really working on. Here's what I really need to do. We talk about success, and many of us think, oh, no, I'm not afraid of success. I'm not afraid of getting that attention. But if we really delve into it, there might be a piece there. Like, for example, when I was younger, I lived in L.A., and I wanted to model. I thought, oh, my gosh, I've got the looks. I've got, what it takes. But there was a piece of me that said, I don't want to give up my privacy. And if I become a celebrity and I become really successful, I'm not going to have any privacy because I'm going to have a bodyguard. And there's always going to be people with cameras trying to poke into my windows. And so there were some very, big fears that kept me from pursuing that aspect of life. Well, recently I was putting some of those pieces together. I said, when I go in and I work places a lot of times, I want my little space and I want to sit down and work. And here comes my little piece up that goes, okay, I want my space. I don't want people to bother me. But when I put that energy out, then it also tends to block people coming to me for business. And I said, I'm going to take a little step on this. And so I put a sign up on the back of my computer about the work I'm doing now. And it just says, code insights and, your name says everything, what's in your name. And you know what? I'm getting people that are looking at it, that are paying attention, and it's kind of different because in one sense it's like all of a sudden I'm getting this attention that I've never really had in my life on this whole different level. And I'm not out there trying to approach people going, hey, look at me, But in another sense I am. And people are coming up, and it's stimulating some of the most amazing conversations. I've received invitations to stay at people's houses that are on 3 or 4 acres of land. I've had people come up and just start to strike up, and it's starting to bring in business for me just because I made myself available.
Right. But if I was your coach, what I would be right now saying the connection, just to connect the dots. Steve Jobs did a graduation speech at Stanford, and he talked about later at the end of his life, if I connected my dots from my past, I would feel like, oh, wow, I wish I knew that back then, and how it was all part of the template. So what I heard from you, just certain words, and I always feel my clients, my students, my patients, that they will give me what I need for details to put the pieces, help them put the pieces together. So what I initially heard is you're this beautiful potential model information person who is, would be very viewed, but you didn't want to be out there because that would potentially pose people judging you, and you also would be under the microscope, on the camera's eye, and you didn't want that being picked on. I'm going to use the word from the previous conversation just because they're kind of tied, because it's a matter of looking upon something differently. And so that when you started feeling more recently trying to step into that space of like, I'm going to be more comfortable about getting myself out there, letting people see me, being more visible. And I think that's a key part, the visibility, the vulnerability, that then what's happening right in front of you as you go across the country doing your work, which is so powerful, that more people are coming to you in these really profound ways. And so by you opening up and showing yourself more visibly, you are actually stepping into your soul lesson, which is seeing yourself as this beautiful person that you are. So you limited yourself by saying I didn't want to be the model. But that was actually, this is the magic part, that was actually the universe talking and creating the wound, creating the persona, the thing that now you have to overcome again to see this great, beautiful Jessie. And when you show that to the world in a visible way, in a vulnerable way, and in a beautiful, powerful way, that then the universe will provide more to you than you could ever experience and expect.
Absolutely. And I felt like, I need to do something that creates some magnetic energy that's, but I operate with this whole other level that I'm not this pushy person, and people have to come to me by choice and by will, their own free will, and their own desire to learn. And that's not putting a restriction on it. It's just, it's that kind of factor where I found when I did this was, how does anybody know what I'm doing if I don't give them a way to see what I'm doing? And
that brings in masculine energy and feminine energy. And we all have it irregardless of our gender. We have both energies. And you really want balance and between both, no matter your gender. And masculine energy is when we stay in control. It's the conscious mind controlling and organizing and being very, disciplined in what you're doing. Matter of fact, it's how you control who sees you, when they see you, to what extent they see you. All that's the masculine energy. The feminine energy is more the creativity, more of the expression, more of the sensitivity, sensibility. And so let me give you an example. If someone has more excessive feminine energy, they will be the ones that are procrastinators, because they would rather live in the, I'll just get to it when I want to. I'm just going to sit here and have my cup of tea and read my book, and I'm going to do my work, but I'm going to just do it in a relaxed pace, and that's more feminine energy, okay? And so they might complain, I can never get what I need done because I don't have structure. I don't have the capability. I don't have enough masculine energy to get me through what I need to do. Now, the opposite would be, and I tend to have a little more masculine energy, and I have to make a conscious effort of trying to create more of the feminine energy. So I'm about 60-40, but my masculine energies, I'm very go-to. I can get things done. I'm very organized, very emphatic. I have very much flexibility, but I'm a problem solver. So you have to assess where are you functioning presently, and what other energies do you need to bring in. And by bringing them in, it'll allow you, again, to grow in your soul and to create more balance within yourself so that you can be expressed to the world. So just like you said, Jessie, about yourself.
It's interesting you bringing that in, because when I looked at this whole piece, and I said to myself, yeah, but I'm not the person that I used to be. Mm-hmm. And I now know that I have the power and the strength to take my personal time and step away from everybody, which I didn't feel like I could do before. And I would make myself so indisposable, which I think a lot of healers and coaches do along the way at some point. They try to make themselves so service-based, so indisposable, call me 24/7, whatever. And I realize now that, no, I'm in a place that I'm okay with being totally open when I'm in this public space. People can ask me all the questions they want, get to know me, get to know my work, and it's not about me having to go force my way so much into places. I mean, I still need to go out and meet people and greet people and things like that and make contacts, but it's a different vibe when you say, yeah, this is my time for people, and whenever I want to, I can take my own time and go do my own thing. It really has been an interesting journey, and now I've got to see the rest of it unfold, so to say.
With excitement and energy and enthusiasm. I mean, that's the way you want to approach your journey, everybody. And I really encourage everyone to stop making your journey, the moment that you're living in, as a terrible place, because the grass is not always greener on the other side. It rarely is. And so when we can start to see, the beauty, the silver lining, the pearl of wisdoms in every situation, which they're always there, if we start to change our perception, and I do a whole seminar on just this, your perception is your reality. And if you can perceive every situation from a different energetic, vibrant spot. I'm not saying look at through the glasses, rose-colored glasses where everything is hunky-dory. I'm just saying change your perception of it. Look at it differently where it's not so overwhelming, so terrible. And if it is terrible, maybe the solution is you need to go to the right resources, go to AAA or go to Alcoholics Anonymous or go to a homeless center if you're being battered. There are many resources out there for all of us. And sometimes that's what you need to do, and I encourage you, if you're in those situations, you should, because by doing that, you're honoring yourself, and there is nothing wrong with asking for help. We are always people that want to give to everyone. Very rarely do we ever ask for help, and because when we do that, we feel like we're weak, and we're giving away our power by doing that, and sometimes asking for help is the most powerful thing you can do.
I really agree. I think that, and for people, if they don't even know where to start, because I myself have been in some pretty nasty spirals, and, I'll admit it, as much as I know, as far as I've come, as many tools as I have to work with, I've been in some pretty nasty spirals, which is why I understand them. And, it's really hard to figure out what you're feeling. It's really hard to figure out some of these pieces at times when you're in that heavy-duty spiral. And, sometimes it is just making the slightest little shift or the slightest change. But more times than not, for me, even when I've been in those places and I'm like, I can't figure it out. I'm so frustrated. Lo and behold,
because we have tunnel vision. You're stuck in the situation. You can't see beyond the wall. Think of yourself kind of stuck in the canyon. Your voice is only reverberating between the walls, and you just can't see the light at the end.
Yeah,
so and needs help.
It's one of those things where, it's like every wall in the room that you're sitting in is mirrored, and it's, a 2 foot by 2 foot space. And it's all ricocheting off of each other and magnifying, and you're seeing layers of those mirrors and mirrors and mirrors. But I was going to say, that's exactly when maybe one of my Facebook contacts or, one of the groups that I belong to, and somebody else sends something through, and it's got the most amazing supportive message in it. And sometimes that's just the step, is to get around some other people that are willing to go, okay, let's get through this, or let's figure this out, or let's, let me just give you a hug today, or whatever it is. And there's always those people there. If you don't have them physically in your life, if you're in some remote area, whatever it is, those people are all over online. I know they're in my group, Spiritual Nourishment Network, right? There's lots of positive people there. Lots of people willing to help out. Lots of people offering little 15-minute things or 10-minute things for free even. And just, I think, those blog posts that come through every now and then. So sometimes that can even just be enough to create the trigger for you to get out of that spiral, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And those are synchronistic events, and they don't even have to be people. They can be phone messages. They can be lights turning on. They can be feathers. They can be songs that come on in the car, and you say, oh, my gosh. It talks about breathing. Well, you realize you haven't been really breathing. You've been holding your breath because you've been in so much pain. It's all different things. And, please, all the listeners, I encourage you to go to my Facebook page, too, for all the inspirational posts there. It's The Power Within, Cynthia Mazzaferro. And, of course, Jesse's, which is great, too. But it is. Those are just messages that, I can't tell you how many people messaged me saying that post made my day. It was like you wrote it for me. And so you're right. There's subtle messages that help you open the door. We have the choice. We have the keys. The 3 keys I talked about are really in my book that I'm writing is the past, healing your past, empowering your present. And I didn't say present, even though I meant present, because I think it's empowering your present, meaning that you're empowering yourself, seeing yourself in the present moment, and then creating the future you were born to live. So it's kind of the past, the present, and the future aspect to this. But they're keys, and you all hold your own keys to the door that you choose to open. You come to a fork in the road. Do I take the left or the right? Well, you have a choice. It's that free will, that choice. But I encourage you to go down the road that is where the greatest opportunity of growth is. And often that's where you have to overcome the fear. You have to go outside that comfort zone and to take a leap of faith. Believe in yourself. You will always get to the other side. And really enjoying that process and believing in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, who else will? Really see yourself as this wonderful divine being that has such tremendous capabilities. And you will not believe the miracles that will unfold in front of you, because the universe will come up to that energy and will provide for you. And so I encourage all of you to really see that presence, see that energy within yourself, and, stay tuned. Don't leave yet, because I have an unbelievable free gift at the end of the call that you'll be getting. That it's just tremendous. So do you want me to talk a little bit, Jessie, about the physical connection to our emotional pain?
Well, we're actually kind of winding down a little bit here. We've been going, and amazingly, the time has just been flying by. I would love for you, because we've got about 7 minutes or so for me to work with you here. That maybe you want to share about the free offering that you have, any events you have coming up, any messages that you want to leave people with, or a closing thought. Again, your contact information. Give them all of that information, if you would.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Well, if you are having physical problems, you can contact me directly on my website, which again is www.Cynthia, Cynthia, and my last name is M-A-Z, Z as in zebra twice, A, F as in Frank, ERRO.com, or The Power Within Programs with an S.com. Either way. So let me tell you what I've got for you today. And I wanted to bring you something very special for you. And the best news, it's completely free. There's no strings attached. You don't have to do this, and then you have to buy something later. Absolutely nothing. It's all free for you. And you can listen and participate as much as you want to do. What I've done is I've created a fabulous bundle of support, love, and healing for you. All you do is you go to my website, So the same thing, www.cynthiamazzaferro.com / which is a fraction sign for those that don't know what that means, free, FREE, hyphen, and then the word gift, GIFT, and another / which is the fraction sign. If you go to that particular, it's called the URL, that link, you will receive 4 meditation, Reiki, healing circles, where you will actually be participating in a guided shamanic journey during the meditation. And as a Reiki master, you will actually receive Reiki healing energy throughout the meditation. And you will have downloadable links to those meditations, as well as a downloadable meditation Reiki healing guide that you will want to print out and that you will use in collaboration with the meditations. It's traumatic, it's transformational, it's powerful, and you will experience great peace, solitude, this inner peace I talk about, vitality, increased energy, confidence, self-love, and healing. And so each of the tapes have different themes. The first one is loving yourself and so much more. The second one is prosperity and abundance. The third is personal growth and awakening. And the fourth one is gifts from within, self-expression, trust, and inner wisdom. So I really wanted it to be something powerful and something that you could, over a month, you take one meditation per week, if you will, and listen to it a few times. Use the guide. It will help tell you how to use the meditation effectively for yourself. And over a month, you'll have covered all 4, and you can go through the cycle again the next month if you want. So I'm really excited to give it to you. So again, it's www.cynthiamazzaferro.com / free - gift /
And I did type that in the chat room, and I wrote it down as well, so that people would have that link. For some reason, that wasn't pulling it up completely as the full link on there, but people can just copy and paste it or write it down and go to that. I think that's great that you're offering that, and I was just sitting here going, "Ooh, we're coming up on the new moon." What a great time to start this process, to start this with the full moon and run through, one a week kind of thing and work with the moon cycles. How wonderful.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yes, that's great. That's great. And if anybody's interested, I'll be starting, I always start periodically small group life coaching programs where you get personal as well as small group interaction as well as private. And so there's a lot to do. I speak publicly, and, I encourage you to go to my website and participate on my Facebook page, and look forward to meeting many of you.
Great. And so any events coming up for you or anything along that line? Besides, I
have about 5 different other speaking engagements on different radio and podcasts as well. And then I will be speaking for a couple of nursing organizations in the fall, and I'm writing my book. So I'm really trying to spend a lot of time writing that book, and I need to continue to maintain that focus. So I am available if anyone wants or is interested in myself speaking at their engagement. My actual presentations are very interactive. I actually do a lot of energy work. We actually do teaching, a lot of tapping, a lot of different. I'm all about empowering the individual to take ownership. So I do not do Reiki during my teaching classes, because I teach you how to intervene and empower yourself and how to make those changes yourself. So to me, as a therapist and as an ergonomist and as a Reiki practitioner and a teacher, which is really what my sole gift is to the world, is really motivating, inspiring, and empowering you, each one of you, to take ownership and to create the life that you want to live, and that starts with loving yourself and seeing yourself as this beautiful being.
I think that's wonderful, and I am very pro helping people be accountable and take charge of their own life. Taking care of ourselves is enough. So if I can teach more people and you can teach more people to take care of themselves, that's a great thing in this world. And, Cynthia, I just so appreciate you giving us your time today and your energy and your thoughts, and because I think you really shared some pieces today that are going to help people with maybe some of the blocks they've been in or some of the struggles that they've been having and how to get to that space that they've been trying to get to. I think you've shared a lot of wonderful information. I certainly encourage anybody who's missed any part of it to go back and catch it in the archives as well.
Thank you. It's been really a wonderful talking with you, and I'm really excited. I hope the listeners feel that I've given them enough tools right here on the call where they actually can implement some of them right away. And life does not have to be difficult. It can actually be really inspiring and thrilling. And I encourage you all to look at life this way. But as much as you and I are touching the world, Jesse, what you mentioned and I mentioned, I would like to let everyone know that you were born to touch the world in your way, and that all of our pieces together make this beautiful masterpiece. And we can't see what the masterpiece is, only our Creator knows what that looks like. But each of us, when we find our soul lessons and we are actually able to overcome them, find your spiritual gifts, the gifts that are unique to you, and let your heart explode and allow your passions to be unyielded. That's when you will touch the world the way you're supposed to do it, and your heart will just be so joyous.
I think that's wonderful, yeah. And the puzzle is definitely a great analogy because
Are you there, Jesse? Because I can't hear anything right this moment.
And if I could see what makes me blind, I would soar to the edge of my mind, and to touch what seems unreal, just to show you the way that I feel. And we are in time with time, one with the season of change inside. And we are in tune with the tune, caught in a balance of sun and moon. Oh, deep inside, the light within, shining to show you it's here to begin. When all I have is all I need, I will soar to the edge of eternity. And we see it eye to eye, one within love to be for the divine. And we're walking hand in hand, caught in the balance of God and man. Over and over, life is your lover, learning to walk just a little bit slower, whispering secrets, but that you can't keep it. No turning back now, this time we reveal it. One to another, all will discover the essence within the most beautiful lover. Time is still turning, the love is still burning. Deep in your spirit, your heart is still yearning for. to the edge of my mind when all we have is all we need. All that we ask for shall be received. And we see in eye to eye, one within love to be for the divine. And we're walking hand in hand, caught in the balance of God and man. And we are in time with time, one with the season of change inside. And we are in tune with the tune of life in the circle and love in bloom. Over and over, life is your lover, learning to walk just a little bit slower, whispering secrets, I bet you can't keep it. No turning back now, this time we reveal it. One to another, all will discover the essence within the most beautiful lover. Time is still turning, the love is still burning. Deep in your spirit, your heart is still yearning for. Over and over, life is your lover, learning to walk just a little bit slower.